In this lesson, we're going to be looking at how to subtract manipulatives. So to start off here, we're just going to look at some examples before we get into any algebra. So let's take a look at something like this. If I have 4 subtract negative 2, that's essentially the same thing as saying 4 add negative 2, okay? Because if I looked at this, if I looked at 4, and we have 4 here, so we're going to say the colors are positive, and I want to take away negative 2. There's not 2 negatives to take away. But if I do this, I never changed it. This is still 4 here. We have 1, 2, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have this section here which cancels out, and this section here which cancels out, because a positive and negative will balance each other out. So now I look at this, I have 2 negatives to take away, which gives me 6. So this is equal to 6. If remember from before, we had the boys and girls, right? So if I said there were 4 girls standing by the punch table at a dance, and we took away 2 boys, well, what happens then? That means we're now going to have 2 more girls without a partner. And so they're going to go to the punch table. So essentially, when we're taking away a negative, it's the same thing as adding a positive. Because if we're taking away boys from the dance, we're adding girls to the punch table. That's essentially what's happening there. Okay, so let's take a look at another example. Let's take a look at 4 subtract 2. That one's pretty simple. We've done this long time before. So that's like saying 4, and we want to take away 2 from 4. Well, that's the same thing as saying 2. Another example here is going to be negative 4, and I want to subtract 2. Okay? So if I'm going negative 4, subtract 2, that's going to be a little bit different here. So if I'm saying negative 4, subtract 2, well, let's take a look at this. We have negative 4 here. Okay? Now I want to take away 2. I don't have 2 positives to take away. But if I add a positive and a negative, and another positive and a negative, that's still going to give me negative 4. Okay? But now I have 2 positives I could take away. This is going to end up giving me a total of negative 6, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? Now, if we look at that once again with the boys and girls at a dance, that's like saying we have 4 girls at the punch table. Okay? Or sorry, 4 boys at the punch table. And we're taking away 2 girls, 2 positive girls. Well, that's also the same thing as saying, hey, it's like taking away 2 positive girls. I could write it like that. That's the same thing. That's also the same thing as saying, we're adding now 2 boys to the punch table, because we're going to have 2 boys that lose their partners and have to go to the punch table. All right? Now, I look at that, and we see a pattern here. If we take away something, it is the same thing as saying 4 plus positive 2. So if I make this into a positive, that's the same thing as adding the opposite of what we originally were taking away. Let's take a look at this here. This is really saying 4 minus positive 2. Well, that's the same thing as saying 4 plus negative 2, switching the signs around, okay, which gives me 2. Same with this one here. If I say negative 4 minus positive 2, that's the same thing as saying negative 4 plus, and now we switch both signs, negative 2. That's essentially what is happening here. So now we're going to get into our algebra. All right. So my first example is going to be this right here. So let's look at this. We're going to have negative 2x squared plus 4x minus 2 subtracted by negative x squared plus 3x minus 1. All right, so let's first build this section here up, the first part that we're going to be taking away from. So I have negative 2x squareds. So here are negative 2x squareds. Okay? Now, we also say we want we have 4 x's. So 4 positive x's, I have 4 positive x's right here. And lastly, I have negative 2. So I'm going to have negative 2 upside down, these whites right here. Okay? Now let's see what it says. We want to take away a negative x squared. So I want to take away a negative x squared. I have a negative x squared here to take away. So I'm going to take away a negative x squared. This part is done. Okay, we took away a negative x squared from the 2x's, negative 2x's. Now it says we want to take away positive 3x. So I'm going to take away here 3 positive x's. And lastly, it says I want to take away a negative 1 from negative 2. And there we go. So what I end up getting here now as a final is negative x squared plus x minus 1. So let's review that. We had negative 2x squareds, and we want to take away 1 negative x from that. So essentially that's like adding x to negative 2x, which will give me negative x squared, right? So negative 2x squared, and we're taking away a negative x squared, so that's like adding a positive x squared. We also have here 4 x's, and we took away positive 3 x's. So from 4 positive x's, we took away positive 3 x's, so we ended up with only 1 x left. And then from negative 2, we took away negative 1, which gave me 1 negative left. Let's go on to my next question. Let's try this one here. Let's try 3x minus 2 subtract negative 2x squared plus x plus 3. So let's first build this one side right here. So I look here, I have 3 x's. So we want 3 positive x's. 1, 2, 3. We also have negative 2. So I have negative 2 right there. Out. Now, it looks at here, it says we want to take away negative 2x squareds. I look at this picture, and I do not have any x squareds. I don't have any negative 2x squareds. So if I was to do this, if I add a positive and negative x squared, is that changing anything? No, it's not changing anything. Because these, if I add something and take away something, it's not changing anything at all. So this is still showing here in my picture 3x minus 2. Now let's do that another one. Put another positive and negative x squared. Now if I look at this, I have 2 negative x squares to take away, which ends up giving me 2x squared. I'm just going to move this around a bit. Okay, so this ends up giving me 2x squared. Okay, so we're done with my x squareds. And remember how we went before and we said, well, if we take away a negative, it's kind of like adding a positive. That's essentially what we did. There were no x squareds here, so we took away negative 2x squareds. So by doing that, we added 2x squareds. Now let's look at my next part here. We have 3x, and we want to take away a positive x. Well, I could take away positive x's. I have one right here. And the last one here says we have negative 2, but I want to take away positive 3. Well, I look at this, there are no other positives. So what am I going to do is I have to make positives. If I go like this isn't changing the equation, but now I have a positive there. Okay, add another minus 1 and positive 1. It's not changing anything, but now I have a positive takeaway. Then I have another minus 1 and positive 1. Doesn't change anything again, but I have positives to take away. So now I look at this. I have 3 positives to take away. And there we go. So now I'm left with negative 5. Remember how we said if we subtract a positive, that's the same thing as adding a negative. And that's essentially what we ended up having here. So altogether, my total answer is 2x squared plus 2x, and then minus 5. Okay? All right. Let's now look at one more question. Let's try one like this here, but without manipulatives. So let's try 3x squared plus 6x minus 4. And I want to take away negative 2x squared minus 6, and then I'm going to say minus 2x. All right, let's look at this here. So, first of all, I have 3x squareds, right? We always want to take away like terms. So from 3x squared, I want to take away negative 2x squareds. Well, I can't take away any negatives, so I can change this and say we're going to add, and if we're adding, if I'm changing this negative to an adding, this has to be as well, I'm going to be like adding two positives. So that's going to give me 5x squared. Okay? Now let's look at this one here. We have 6x, and here's the 2x. So I have 6x, and I want to take away negative 2x. Well, if we're taking away negative 2x, that's like adding 2x. If we're taking away negative, it's like adding. So that's going to give me a total of plus 8x. Now the last one here, I have negative 4, and I want to take away negative 6. Well, I look at that, again, there's more here we're trying to take away than is there. So I'm going to go negative 4 plus positive 6. Because if I change this to a plus, I have to change the signs of this one too. So it's going to be negative 4 plus positive 6 will give me plus 2. All right, I'm going to show you one other way of doing this, okay, with this exact same question here, okay, and it's using our distributive property that we learned before. So if I go 3x squared plus 6x minus 4, and now I'm going to take away, and we're going to pretend it's minus 1, and I'm going to have negative 2x squared minus 6 minus 2x. So right here, it's really like saying we're minusing one of all of these, and we have one of all of those. So essentially, I could use my distributive property and multiply this negative 1 into all of these to make this a positive, okay? So now, and to change all these signs, and then we're just going to combine these. So I'm going to have 3x squared plus 6x minus 4. And now negative 1 times 2 is what? And this will allow us to get rid of the brackets. Negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2. A negative times a positive, or a negative times a negative is a positive. So I'm going to get plus 2x squared. Then we have a negative times negative 6 will give me plus 6. Then a negative times a negative again will give me plus 2x. Now, we're going to look at this here. 3x squared plus 2x squared is going to give me 5x squared. We're done those. 6x plus 2x is going to give me 8x. Then negative 4 plus 6 is going to give me plus 2. Just like combining terms, which we've done earlier. And we look at this, we get the exact same answer. So there we kind of looked at two ways of thinking about this. You could choose whichever way you want. So it's up to you which way you want to go.